Lubbock had 514 positives yesterday, which brings their total active cases to over 4,600. Right now, the city of Lubbock is waiting for 2 portable hospitals to be brought in because their hospitals are inundated. Amarillo has had a lot of problems dealing with COVID. Yesterday, they had 481 tests simply for the one day, and they have an active cases of 5,413. But by far, the city that's being hit the hardest in West Texas is El Paso. They have brought in portable morgues. They have brought in 4 portable morgues to handle the number of deaths that they are seeing. Yesterday alone, they had 1,292 cases of COVID diagnosed as positive, with 201 tests that are being still waiting to be read. And their total cases currently, these are current active cases, are at 27,895. Give you a little bit of something that's going on in Big Springs. The Big Springs Scenic Mountain Medical Center has more COVID patients than they have any other type of patients. And this is what we're seeing throughout West Texas. In ODESSA, I can just tell you, over the last 6 weeks, we watched the numbers progressively climb. In the last 3 weeks, like 3 weeks ago, we saw the numbers at 412. 2 weeks ago, it was 522. Last week, it was 832. And this is what is overrunning our hospitals. Yesterday, we reported 209 cases, and we have 1,528 cases that are active. Like we said, one of the most pressing issues that we see are what's going on in our hospitals. Hospitals are faced with 2 problems. One, with patients that are coming in with COVID, but they're also facing their employees getting ill with COVID and not being able to work. Currently, ORMC has 26 admissions. They are out of beds, so they are holding 1 patient currently in their emergency room. And they have 32 employees out, either with COVID or in a process of being quarantined. Medical Center has 60 admissions. They're currently filled up their beds and are holding 5 in their emergency room, which is really not designed to keep something like COVID from spreading. So this is one of the things that they're having to do to be able to handle those. Our sister city over at Midland Memorial has 72 admissions and have 5 being held in the emergency room. Like I said, they're running out of beds and are going to have to use another wing. And they just cannot take a COVID patient and put them in a bed. They have to restrict that entire part of the hospital for COVID. The tests that we've been doing throughout the community, we did some in the fall and we're doing some here in the winter. We're seeing a 41% positivity rate. These are the free tests that we've been doing at some of the parks. Why is this happening? Plain and simple, we've gotten comfortable. We're not wearing this mask as much as we should. We're not social distancing like we should be. And gathering events. Many people in ODESSA did not go out trick-or-treating, but they held parties. And most of the parties that you saw on Facebook, they were not wearing masks. And that is something that both communities are fearful what's going to happen when those numbers start coming in. So I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Payton to go over his points, and then we'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mayor Turner, and thank you, all of you who are doing your job. I know that many times we as mayors and city servants and city managers and staff talk about what a time this is for us, but I want to acknowledge as well that those of you that are doing your job in the media probably never expected anything like this, and you're doing double duty on everything and trying to take care of yourselves and being out in the public. And once again, as I've said before, I want to thank you for you know, sometimes this sounds like political speech, but I just want to thank you for doing a good job. I don't know if you guys have noticed, apparently, according to Fox News and CNN, COVID is no longer something worth tracking anymore. I was checking their websites before we came on the air. And if you remember, just a week or 2 ago, they had the COVID trackers that were right there front and center, showed all the numbers, showed all the deaths, and those are gone. In fact, you have to scroll down through CNN's site just to find some COVID news, and the same is true of Fox. And so I want to again congratulate you on being balanced, on being consistent, and not playing any politics with this. And I thank you so much for that. I also want to just acknowledge the mayors around West Texas who are struggling through this. I remember Mayor Turner and I in the early days. I can remember phone calls when certain areas just had 1 or 2 cases. And I can remember late spring when we thought things were getting better, and even early summer when things weren't that bad. But we're in a different place right now. I'm thankful for Mayor Turner giving you the data. I know you've been keeping up here in Midland with Russell Myers and the staff with their numbers as well. But we are here together, both of us, as we were at the very beginning of this, when we gathered together at the engineering school at UTPB to just express our concern about the seriousness of this and what it is we are encouraging the citizens of Midland and ODESSA to do. I know that Mayor Turner and I both agree that the greatest encouragement for those of you in Midland and ODESSA to take this seriously is when we continue to show you how serious it is, and that's how you respond. I think we've both said before, West Texans are slow to a fight, and but as soon as they know the fight's real, then they're going to fight and they're going to take care of it. So as you've heard already, cases are going up. Honestly, we are not being hit as hard as some of the surrounding regions, but we sure could. We could get hit just as hard next week or the week after that if we don't take the time right now to reemphasize the message of what we think is right. Yesterday at our city council meeting, we had the distinct privilege of listening to the director of nursing from Midland Memorial just express to us what they would like us to do and like us to reinforce, and that is what we're here to do. All of us are guilty of having COVID fatigue, but at the same time, we're not the ones fighting on the front lines like those in the hospitals are. And this is really a call for us to step back up to the plate as citizens so we can help our hospitals so they can get back to some form of normal operation, even though normal will still look a little bit different. Our nurses, the staff, they're paying a huge price. So I think it's a very small price for us to once again come to the airwaves and encourage our citizens to do the following things. As I wrote in my notes, we're going to heed the call of our frontline workers, and short of issuing any types of mandates. In fact, even in our conversation yesterday with the hospital, all of us agree that mandates are nearly, if not impossible, to reinforce. But if we have a mandate personally to do what we can do, then I think we will do those things. And you've already heard what those things are. We want to emphasize, if it's even a word, to re-emphasize the putting on of masks and the wearing of masks. I, for one, have been negligent in that over the past. I've been reminded of that. And even yesterday when I went to an event, I had to make sure I had my mask when I came in, made sure of where I was and what my surroundings were. And we want to encourage people to get back to those practices of masks, of social distancing, of the hygiene. And it's very, 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 very easy to slip back into old normal patterns. If we're going to beat these numbers back, quite frankly, this is the only way we're going to do it. There is no other way. We're not going to get to herd immunity next week. We're not going to get to a vaccine next week, even though we're all hearing good news about a vaccine. And even though the mayor and I, he probably has gotten as many emails as I have about people saying masks don't work or masks do work. The reality is we've been through this twice. We've been through these spikes twice. And every time we have asked you to do this, you've done it, and we've reduced the numbers. If we do not get these numbers down, we will be forced to reduce occupancies to 50% or less. These issues are going to come down from the state, and I think I know us well enough to know we do not want to be told what to do at the state level, and so we have to take care of it locally, or we're going to have to start shutting things down again against all of the will of every single one of us. Let me just review again, but before I review, I want to just emphasize the small difference in this point. The two previous spikes we've experienced between our two cities have been related to just getting numbers down. And over time, you have heard us ask you to please honor frontline workers. And we have gone by and put up signs in front of hospitals, and we've acknowledged how great they've done. The best thing that we can do to honor our frontline workers and our doctors and our nurses is not put up signs and send cards and letters anymore. Right now, if we'd get back to what we know we need to do with masking and social distancing and taking this thing seriously, that's how we're going to truly honor our frontline workers. We are calling together on businesses to require masks for patrons in your stores. And as the free market works, you as patrons, if you do not see masks being required in stores, you should express your concern to management, or you should stop frequenting those places. It is the only active solution we have. We're calling on residents to wear masks in public where you cannot social distance. We're calling on you to be smart and to be wise as you go into Thanksgiving. There's a lot of fear about Thanksgiving. There's a lot of messaging out there nationally about Thanksgiving. You know the right things to do, and just be careful about your gatherings on Thanksgiving. If we don't want to go backwards in our progress forward, then we're going to have to knuckle down right here and heed the call from the two of us, and I think our shared city councils as well, who are walking through this every bit as fervently as the two of us are, and heed these calls to get back to these practices to fight for the well-being of our healthcare systems. Make no mistake about it, this is a different spike than the previous two. The previous two, our healthcare workers were telling us this is getting a little bit out of hand. This one, we got to save the lives of our healthcare workers, not just the lives of our individual residents and neighbors. This is all hands on deck. I already know that some people are going to say, but if you don't mandate it, people won't do it. But if we mandate it, people won't do it. And we're not going to send out 911 squads finding people who have disappeared because they didn't have their mask on. We believe the people of Midland will do the right thing and the people of ODESSA will do the right thing. And I'm telling you, El Paso, Lubbock, Amarillo, and surrounding sister cities are depending on us to do our part so we don't overload them with what we have not done. And so that'll conclude my comments. I'll be happy to take questions, and thanks again for being a part of this broadcast with us.
Sammy with News West 9 was the first one to raise her hand. So Sammy, whenever you're ready, go ahead and ask your questions. Let's see. Sammy, you there? Maybe. Maybe she's having technical difficulties. We'll give it a second to see if anyone else has any questions.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Mayor, you've talked a lot about people taking responsibility and how it's their own personal responsibility to wear masks. Well, clearly with the numbers that we're seeing and that personal responsibility isn't enough to get people to wear masks. You've also said that you don't want to enforce a mask mandate. So how bad is it going to get until you enforce a mask mandate? Or is that just not on your agenda at all?
Well, first of all, I don't agree, Sammy, with the premise of the question that people aren't taking the responsibility. I would take that responsibility back towards me and our council of reinforcing the message. We haven't been reinforcing the message as much as we have been in the past, or we did in the past. And now we're once again standing up and portraying the problem for what it really is. So I don't think the premise of the question is accurate, that people aren't taking responsibility. There will be some people, no matter what we do, even if we threaten them with some crazy threat, they're still not going to do what we're asking them to do. They're still not going to wear masks. And so I think right now you're seeing us elevate this conversation. You're seeing city councils elevate this conversation. You're seeing hospitals elevate this conversation. So I think it's a little too early, given how I myself personally have not been as diligent to get this message out. And this has caught us off guard. It's gotten us behind. And so we're elevating the message to call on the people to do the third time what they've done 2 times. So I think they will do that. I think it's a little too early to say that people just by and large in both of our cities won't take that personal responsibility.
We've seen it in the past when we ask for the mandate. I mean, when we talk about masks, you've seen the numbers go down. Remember June and July, the numbers were going up. When we started really reinforcing the mask, the numbers started to come down. There's always going to be those that are going to say, I'm not going to do it. But if we can talk to the businesses and say, you need to have a mask before you go into the business, that will also help. That's why we're calling on the business community to help.
I think it's important also, just to reiterate, that the businesses, early on when this started, I remember talking to managers at several box stores, and they said, as long as we know we have your support for us to put signs out that say people are going to have to wear masks when they come in our stores, that's what we need. And once again, that's what we're saying, whether it's HEB, whether it's Lowe's, whether it's a small mom and pop business, you have our support as mayors and the city councils. And if you put signs up like we hope you do that say you're going to have to wear a mask when you're in the store, you're going to have our support. And that's been something we haven't reinforced as much as we did in the beginning. And we're to that point again, we're going to have to reinforce that message and support those business owners.
So mayors, you are not going to enforce the governor's mask mandate by patrolling or anything like that.
We are not here in Midland. I can't even imagine the circumstance where we would have our police officers patrolling and then walking into stores at what particular point. I mean, if someone's not 6 feet apart walking outside, do we pull them over? And also to take that a little bit further, if we decide that we're going to start issuing tickets, is it going to be a $10 ticket, a $50 ticket, a $100 fine? And then once we get past this spike, and let's say we have a vaccine that's coming our way, are those tickets valid anymore if they don't show up in court? It was our own governor who said we're not going to put people in jail and do things whenever a beauty parlor owner decided to rebel against what was going on. So I personally, and the city council still has the opportunity, any member of the city council, to bring an ordinance to enforce this. But I, for one, am not going to give in to the virtue signaling of saying we're going to put a mandate in place that we can't enforce. But we can encourage, and although that may still fall short for many, it's not going to fall short for me.
I agree with Mayor Payton. We have to encourage. That's one of the things as leaders, you have to step up and say, look, this is why we need to do it. You know, most people in here, they've thought about the healthcare workers the entire time. You know, when you see that 76 employees of medical center are out because of COVID, they're not getting that in the hospital. They're getting that through community spread. And that's one reason that we think we just need to come out and say, hey, we've got to buckle down and be able to get past this, or we're going to be like Amarillo, or we're going to be like Lubbock, where you're having to call in portable medical trailers. So we just don't want to get to that point.
Right. And I do know, and I can just really only speak to Midland since I cover Midland Memorial Hospital thoroughly. Yesterday, Kit Bredemus, the chief nursing officer of Midland Memorial Hospital, spoke to city council, spoke to you, Patrick Payton, asking to enforce a mask mandate. What do you have to say to medical workers like Kit Bredemus?
That's not what he said at the city council meeting. In fact, I point blank asked him if he thought that a mandate was something we should do, and he'd said it is not something we should do. It's not something we can enforce. So we told them, he asked us point blank, and I put it in my notes. I said, what would you like us to do? And he said, I would like you to enforce the message that we want people to be wearing masks around this community. So it's a misunderstanding, I think, to think that he told city council he wanted us to issue a mandate. The mandate, very simply, is not a mandate so we start patrolling and looking for people without masks. The mandate is us sitting here and asking the residents of Midland and Odessa to start masking up again and practicing the social distance. That is a difference. It's not exactly saying the same thing.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, he wanted to advocate that we really put into place the governor's mask mandate, just to clear up any confusion there.
I don't think that clears it up yet. That's not what I heard at the city council meeting, but we can move past that.
All righty, well, we've got his speech transcribed for us. That's all the questions that I have.
Okay. We'll give them just a second to see if anyone types anything out or raises their hand while we wait for them. Mayors, do you have any final comments?
Mayor Turner?
I have faith in people of West Texas. We've gotten through a lot of tough times in the past, and we're going to get through this. But we're going to have to do our due diligence to make sure. My best friend has it right now, and he sent me a text and said, tell them they don't want this. He is tough as a pair of old West Texas boots, but he's struggling with it. We lost a third grader over here. I don't want to see that. If it means wearing a mask, wear a mask. We'll get through this. Hopefully we'll have vaccines before the end of the year. The state of Texas is already talking about it. Also, some new drugs are coming out, which is fantastic. We've got to get these numbers down just for our medical folks, you know, because they have families too. And I don't want them taking anything home or getting in the community and taking it home to their families. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Turner. I absolutely agree. And I likewise, like I've said many times before, I absolutely believe in the people of Midland and Odessa. And if we're going to keep repeating this message that we see somebody out there that's not wearing a mask, that's going to be that way regardless of what we do. I think by and large, we know what it is to love God and to love our neighbors and to do the right thing. And no matter what we put in place, really what they need to hear is what's going on. And once again, as we said at the beginning of this press conference, we might be slow to the fight again, but once we know it's a real fight, and we know it's a real fight, you can't hide what's happening all around us. Our hospitals are making known what's happening to us. And so the two of us have come together once again, just like we did at the very beginning. We've done 2 other times to say to the people of Midland, for you to report to the people of Midland that the 2 mayors of these 2 cities and their city councils are telling people, requesting people, asking people, please start practicing what you've done before, because we're in a very dangerous situation. And we need to mitigate this situation just like we have in the past. And I have full faith and assurance that the people will do that.
All right. We don't have any other media questions. So Mayor Payton and Mayor Turner, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.